flashlight trembling in my hand, dust in the air, cold on my neck, names on the walls that nobody wrote. Door swings wide, no one there to check. Old house breathing like it's alive. Floorboards creak, something replies. Ask one question into the dark. Get three whispers hitting my spine. Got my paranormal playbook, turn the page, see the dead talk, every rule that they gave me falls apart when the clock stops. Paranormal playbook, say the names, watch the room shake. If I cross the line in the hallway, will I walk back out awake?
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our new show, Reading Shadows. The inspiration behind Reading Shadows was the number of people who, during our Wednesday night Viral Venom episodes or our bi-weekly Paranormal Playbook episodes, are asking for readings. So this show is about all things psychic phenomenon, psychic experiences, and an opportunity for each of you to get a reading. I see both Kim and Fee are here. Hey guys, good to see both of you. Thank you for supporting our new show. I want to give a quick shout out to Movie Thief, the new movie by Forever Entertainment. You can find info about Movie Thief on Kickstarter. I know they just ended their most recent campaign. I know there's more to come. Also, if you go to scarezone.net, you can find information about their other films. Killer Pizza, their Final Girl clothing series, and the upcoming Horror Hound Bites. Lots of good stuff there. So before I jump into readings, I'm going to make you listen to me talk for a little bit. If I just gave readings, it would be a very quick show. And I want this to be something more than that. Just in case there's some of you here listening that don't know me and my background, I'm going to talk about that for a bit. So if anybody doesn't know me, my name is Christopher Lee Jansen. I am a psychic medium. I'm the house psychic at the Fairfield County Infirmary. I'm an author, a content creator, an actor, and model. One of the co-founders of Crooked Path Paranormal, the co-host of Wednesday night's Viral Venom. I could go on and on and on with all the different things that I do. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of when I started to first connect to my psychic abilities. My entire life, from the time I was a very young child, I was always fascinated by everything dark, everything some people might consider frightening or scary. It's always where I've been drawn. I was the kid that hung out at the abandoned mausoleum down the street instead of going to the playground. When I was 10 years old, that was actually right around the time I received my first Ouija board. I started working with spirit boards when I was 10 years old. It was around that same time that I had a dream that a close friend of my family's passed away. And this person was a young, healthy, 42-year-old woman. There was no reason for anyone in the world to be thinking about her passing away. Within 3 days, she died. Very, very unexpectedly. And at the moment, I don't think I put anything into it. I don't think I even said to myself, oh my God, I had this dream that she died and now She's passed away. I don't think I thought about that. I do remember being at her funeral and having this experience where I could see her. I could see two of her. It's like her body was here in the casket and she was standing in front of me. She was talking to me. This was the first time I ever saw someone in spirit. Ironically, that was also the person who gifted me my first Ouija board and opened that door for me. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? I never told anybody about that experience until much later in life. It was probably when I hit my 20s that I really started talking about that. It was also around that same time, when I was 10 years old, that I felt the need to purchase my first tarot deck. Not something most 10-year-olds do with the birthday money from grandma and grandpa, but that's what I felt called to do. And that's when the door opened for me working with tarot. So I've been working with tarot cards for over 30 years. They've become a big part of my life and a big part of my work. For the remainder of my childhood and even teenage years, other than working with tarot, the biggest psychic connection I had was continued dreams of someone passing away, and then it happening within 3 days. I would say that's happened 5 or 6 times throughout the course of my life. Now, every time after that first, it's been someone who's either been older or they've been sick. So it wasn't shocking like the first time was. I always find myself wondering, what would I do in a situation where I had this dream and it was someone who was younger again? Would I act upon it? Would I warn them? Would I try to give them advice? I don't know what I would do, and I may never know unless I'm in that situation. And quite honestly, I hope to not ever be in that situation. Having psychic abilities is very much a double-edged sword. There are a lot of really wonderful things, really wonderful experiences that come from having psychic abilities. And there's also a lot of pressure that comes with it as well. You know, recently someone shared something with me in confidence, and they told me that the only reason they shared this with me is because they know that I'm psychic, and I'd look at them and I'd figure it out anyway, so they might as well just tell me. But they weren't ready to share it with the rest of the world yet. So I found myself in a position of having to hang on to that, which I guess isn't different from many other facets of my life. Any of you who've ever watched any episodes from Crooked Path know how often I say, I'm going to hang on to that for now. So I guess I'm always hanging on to things. When it comes to tarot, move over NBC, go away CBS, we need a CLJ channel, all Chris all the time. I like this idea. Actually, that would be a lot of fun. If I could retire from the 3 days a week I spend working and just do something like this, I don't know. We'll put that out there. So going back to my background with tarot, I have probably over 1,000 tarot decks in my house. And I, more often than not, work from the same deck. I know 2 of you I've seen in the comments have received readings from me, and you've received readings from this deck. It's the Wild Unknown by Kim Krans. Not to be confused with Kim Carnes, who sang Betty Davis Eyes. I crack myself up sometimes. I'm really funny. So the wild unknown, why it appeals to me, it is very wild. And I want to share a little bit with you about this deck. This deck is meant to be very nature-based, very animalistic. There's no human figures in this deck. And if you've ever seen a traditional Rider-Waite tarot deck, you know that almost every single card has some sort of human imagery. Even the back of each card looks like snakeskin. This deck gets rid of page, knight, king, and queen and gives us son, daughter, mother, father. It gets rid of those human concepts and gives it back to the wild. In a traditional context, this would be the Queen of Wands. Here, it's the Mother of Wands. Even a card as simplistic as the Ace of Swords. They've incorporated the snake into the imagery to give it that wild feel. I see Kim likes this deck as the author shares a name with her, and I do agree with Fee. This is an absolutely beautiful deck. It's got so many layers. One of my favorite things to say about this deck is that it sometimes has a sense of humor, and sometimes it's just a complete asshole. I guess I'm the same way, so maybe that's why I love this deck so much. The other thing I really love about this deck is that it uses contrast between black and white and between what I see as being absolute beauty versus what might be considered a little more dark or grotesque. For instance, the Magician card. I actually consider this to be my card. I have this entire thing tattooed on my arm. This card's very important to me. I don't know how well you can see the colors, but there's yellows and oranges in the back. It looks like rays of sun. Absolutely beautiful with magnificent use of color. Versus our Ten of Swords. Not quite as beautiful. Beautiful in its own way. But pure black and white and absolutely void of color. All of those things have allowed me to connect to this deck in a way that I don't think I've ever connected to any other deck. So that's why this is my third copy of this deck. I've worn through 2 others, and now I'm well on my way to wearing through copy number 3. Over time with this once a month show, other things I'm going to be giving you other than talking about my experiences and doing readings for you. Sometimes I will have guests on to tell their stories. Some of them may be psychic, some of them may not be. Another thing I might be giving to you, I might be talking to you about ways you can tap into your own psychic potential, even if you feel like that's something you've absolutely never done before. I believe with my whole heart, every fiber of my being, that everybody has the potential to tap in psychically, whether it's profoundly or just more minimally. But either way, I think it's there for everybody. I think it's something that people can learn to tap into, to utilize, and potentially, most importantly, control. I do think our psychic abilities is something that we should very much have control over. Those abilities should not control us. I think we should have a say in when we're going to use those abilities, when we're going to shut them off. Even myself, who operates on that level through so much of the work that I do, I can shut it off. Those of you who know me well know that I do a lot of self-care and relaxation and even meditation. And during that time, I am not plugged in psychically. That's my time. For me, what it means to utilize my psychic abilities. So when I do a reading for someone, I think just about everybody here has seen me do a reading on this show. And you know that quite often, without being asked a question, I'll just pull a card and I'll start talking about what I feel. And hopefully it hits for the person I'm speaking to. I also think that most of the people here, at least everybody I've seen in the comments so far, has had a personalized one-on-one reading from me. So you know what my reading style is. Sometimes I use a traditional spread. Sometimes I create a spread. Sometimes I don't use a spread at all. Sometimes I do what I've termed stream of consciousness. Like I'll just turn a card, start talking, and I might talk a little more, turn the next card, and just see where it goes. In recent years, I've gotten more and more away from using traditional spreads. Not to say that there's anything wrong with them. And I love this, Kim. I love to see that your kid's hanging on and taking notes. Yes, I absolutely do know which one. Hey, Winter, I'm glad you're here with us. My personal reading style has changed a lot in recent years. And I think part of that has come from how I've started using my psychic abilities in the paranormal world. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Other than looking at a card and speaking to someone about what might be going on in their life, quite often I can connect to those who have died. Sometimes people come to me and they ask me to do that. I ask them to set an intention for who they might want to have come through, even though I know that it might not always happen. Sometimes the person they want to speak to might be right there, but there's somebody else that really has something to say. And the person they want to speak to is kind enough to step to the side and let this other person come through. I did a reading for a young woman several years ago. This was back when I would do a yearly summer festival in Milwaukee, and I would be doing readings from about 9 a.m. till 2 a.m. This young woman had come up and said she wanted to see if anybody would come through for her. And I remember thinking, Grandma, this is going to be Grandma. Grandma's coming through. Grandma didn't come through. I got started and I got a young man who had a lifelong battle going on in his own mind. And it eventually got to a point where he couldn't take it anymore. He needed silence. And to get that silence, he did the only thing he knew how to do. And at the end of the reading, this young woman informed me she knew exactly who I was speaking about. It was her best friend who had unfortunately taken his life 1 year ago. And then she said to me, I was really hoping that Grandma would come through. So we can set our intention all day long. And if somebody else has something important to say, that's the message that's going to come through. I can tell you another great story about Grandma. At that same festival, another young woman came up to me and she had a tattoo on her arm of an elderly woman and it said Grandma underneath. Some of you have probably heard the story. I looked at the tattoo and it reminded me of my own grandmother. So I had to say something. I said to her, that tattoo is absolutely gorgeous. And she said, thanks. What can you tell me about her? And I said, well, she's still alive. And this young woman acted like I'd punched her in the stomach. And she said, "Why would you say that?" I said, "Well, we have two options. She's not dead. That means she's still alive." And she said to me, "Well, you're right, but how did you know that?" And the answer is quite simply, I just did. I'll never know how I knew that. I just did. So in the end, I ended up giving this young woman a reading about her grandmother and some things that were going on in her life. She and her grandmother were very close. There are many different kinds of psychic ability. There's clairvoyance, clear seeing, which to me can come through in many different ways. To me, that can be in the form of a vision. You don't have to have your eyes open to receive a vision. Or maybe it's more like what I experienced at that funeral when I was 10 years old, that I was seeing this person in front of me. There's clairaudience, clear hearing. When you receive a message more auditorily, that can be hearing it like someone's speaking in your ear, or maybe you receive the word in your mind. That's still clairaudience. Now, as I'm saying these things, these different terms, and explaining them, I'm hoping that those of you listening will have a moment where you'll say, yes, I've had that experience. I know what that's like. Maybe you've never considered yourself psychic, but as I'm describing these things, you might sit back and say, yes, I've had that experience. I don't think one has to call themselves psychic to have such experiences. Another one is clairsentience, clear feeling. Fee says Dylan has clairaudience. He's been working on trying to control and learn how to use it. I do remember that about him, that is definitely a strength of his. It is definitely something that we can control and use. And I'm going to throw something out there right now. Just a suggestion, something that one can do to work on their clairaudience. So I've been leading psychic development circles around the country, both in person and virtually, for many, many years. So I have, well, this is also another one of the books I'm working on. I have just volumes of exercises and things that I've led over the years, some of which have been passed on to me, some of which I've come to on my own, just in researching and working with spirit. Clairaudience, I'm going to give you two. One is to sit in a noisy space. Yes, not a quiet space, a noisy space where there are multiple noises going on all at one time. And then pick one sound that you want to focus on and try to focus on it in a way that all the other sounds fade into the background. And all you're hearing is that one sound. Being able to do that on a practical level with all of the practical day-to-day sounds that are around us will definitely help with honing in on that clairaudience. Another way that can be done is to take a song and listen to it, and to try to focus on just one part of the song. There might be vocals. Usually there's multiple forms of instrumentation. Listen to a song and try to focus just on one piece of the song, maybe one instrument that you want to focus on, and let everything else fade into the background. Those are a couple of very practical, easy ways to work on clairaudience. Now going to clairsentience, clear feeling. I'm sure everybody has had an experience with clairsentience. You meet someone for the first time, and something inside of you says, I don't want anything to do with this person. They're not a good person. You might have no idea why, but everything in you is screaming, they're not a good person. You're feeling it. Or maybe that's claircognizance, clear knowing. That to me was the grandmother in the tattoo. How did I know she was still alive? I just did. Clairsentience to me, clear feeling, can also be you walk into a room and you say to yourself, the energy of this room is vile. You ever walk into a room and feel like it's just going to make you sick if you stay? Some of my favorite rooms at the Fairfield County Infirmary, rooms that I love, boys' room, the girls' room, room 315, room 310. I think those of you listening are familiar with all those spaces. Those are rooms I love. I've had days where I walk in and go, oh no, this does not feel good. This does not feel right. That's clairsentience. So I think for all of you, on some degree, you've experienced one of those psychic senses. I'm going to tell you one more story, and then we're getting just about to the time where I'm going to start doing some readings. I think maybe you've heard this story too. Hi, Mandy. And I'm glad to hear Dylan is hearing this, because I've seen the positive results both of those exercises can have with mastering clairaudience. Yeah, I'm going to throw that word out there, mastering. That feels right in the moment. Those of you that know me, and especially those of you that have ever received a reading from me, know that I am very particular about every word that comes out of my mouth, because I truly believe that every single word has meaning. I can't tell you how often I'm in the middle of a reading and I go to say something, and it's like I'm going to choke on the word that's going to come out. Nope, that's not it. And then I have to reach for a different word. Then I find it and I deliver it, and all is well. Where is that coming from? When I know the word I'm about to say isn't the right word. Is it my gut telling me? Is it someone's loved one that I may be connecting to that's stopping me from saying something a certain way? Is it my spirit guide? Is it someone else's spirit guide? I'm going to say yes. It's probably all of those things. So there's one other story I wanted to share with you before I start doing readings. And again, I think some of you have heard this, but it's all right. It's a great story, so I'm going to share it anyway. A couple of years ago, I was at the Blennerhassett Hotel and Spa in Parkersburg, West Virginia. It was my first time there. We were going to be spending a night, And the next day, we were going to be going over to Blennerhassett Island. I walked into the lobby with a friend of mine, and I said, "Old woman, purple dress, bending down, picking up a bobby pin off of the floor." Hold that thought. I want to read this comment. Kim, I can see that with you. I can see you feeling things, just having that feeling. And yes, now you do have a name for it. I think you had that feeling the day you and I met. You've told me that story, and you've said you knew that you needed to come and talk to me. And you did. And we shared an incredible experience. And now, more than a year later, here we are. So you've always told me, you said you just knew you had to come and talk to me. So I would say, yes, you do feel things. You do have that feeling about this and that. And based on the way things turned out the day we met, I'd say you tend to act upon that feeling. And that to me is a very good thing. Everybody has their intuition. You can know what your gut says all day long, but then taking the next step and acting upon it, what do? Do you act accordingly based on what your gut is saying, or do you take an elevator ride? Do you go up here and you overthink what you know? I think everybody knows something about that too. So back to the Blennerhassett. In the lobby, I say to my friend, "Old woman, purple dress, she's bending down, she's picking up a bobby pin." And my friend looks at me like I'm crazy. And she says, "What?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. I'm seeing an old woman in a purple dress. She's bending down. She's picking up a bobby pin off of the floor." Every time we walked into that lobby, I saw the same thing. And it got to a point where I wanted to just go ask this woman, "Who are you?" I kept seeing her, or I should say, she kept showing herself to me. Kim said I was going to say, "Tell our story." I knew that. Some say I'm psychic. So I never got to ask this woman in the lobby who she was. After our night there, we took the boat over to Blennerhassett Island to tour the island and see the Blennerhassett Mansion. We walked into the visitor center to buy our tickets for the boat. And I looked at my friend and I said, "Margaret." And she said, "What?" And I said, "I don't know." "Margaret." So we went up to the desk to buy our tickets, and we see the Blennerhassett family tree. The Blennerhassett Mansion was built by Harmon and Margaret Blennerhassett, and they had lived there, and throughout generations, following generations each had a Margaret. So there were a number of Margarets in the Blennerhassett family. One tragic thing about Harmon and Margaret's story: after Harmon died, they'd lost everything. Margaret and I believe a son had moved to New York. They died. They were buried. These graves they were marked with were nothing spectacular. But from what I know, at some point somebody found those graves, recognized the name, and paid to have the bodies exhumed and brought back to the island so they could be buried near the mansion. So we leave the island. We're driving back to Ohio. I'm going to be doing readings at the Fairfield County Infirmary that night. This young woman walked into my room and she said to me, "I would like to get in touch with my grandmother." It's always grandmother, isn't it? She says, "I'd like to get in touch with my grandmother. When she passed, there were things that were not right between us." And I froze. And I said to her, "Do you remember your grandmother wearing a purple dress?" And she said no. And I felt like somebody hit me on the back of the head. And it was like somebody screamed in my ear, clairaudience at its finest. Lilac. I'm not quite seeing the difference. But I decided to throw it out there. Okay. Do you recall your grandmother wearing a lilac dress? Her face lit up, and she said yes. Okay. I asked her, what is the significance? Notice even how I worded that. What is the significance? I didn't say, is there significance? By then I knew. What is the significance of bobby pins? And she said, when I find them laying on the ground, I pick them up and know that Grandma left them for me. I said, does your family have ties to West Virginia? Yes. Does your family have ties to New York? Yes. What was your grandmother's name? Margaret. I think I almost fainted. In the over 30 years I've been working with psychic abilities, I've received confirmation before. But to me, that was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. This whole thing starting a day earlier in a different state and unraveling the next day back home. Well, I will tell you, this young woman and I had a fantastic reading. Obviously, her grandmother came through very strongly. And I feel that both of them got the closure that they needed in that moment. I'm actually going to start mixing cards as I talk, because it's almost time to do some readings. It wasn't that long after that this young woman brought back a whole big group of her friends for readings. So that was pretty cool. But I will tell you that when I walked out of my room after that reading, I went to the front desk at the Fairfield County Infirmary, and the person sitting at the desk said to me, "You look like you've just seen a ghost," which is hilarious for so many reasons. One, I do see them. Two, this is the Fairfield County Infirmary. I think people who don't normally see them might tend to see them there. So me walking out and her saying to me, "You look like you've seen a ghost," I knew how rattled I was by the experience with that young woman's reading. So for tonight, I would like to do a reading for each one of you that's here, that's listening. Every show, I'm going to do this a little bit differently. It's a once-a-month show, so that gives you an opportunity to connect with me this way, once a month. Tonight, I'm just going to stick with the one-card reading that I traditionally do. I want to make sure I hit everybody that wants a reading, but since that's what this is about, this show is all about psychic ability, psychic phenomenon, and readings. If anybody has any specific thought or intention or question, you'd like me to put in your reading. Even if it's just a word or two, I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that. So let me talk about that for a moment. I have no problem doing a one card read and not having anything to go on. I have no problem with that at all. But I do love the idea of people putting some energy into what they're about to get from their reading. Energy or intention. In some ways, I get very picky about that. Like when a client sits down in front of me and I ask them, what are we going to focus on today? And they say, the future. I always have to pause and take a deep breath. And something I know about myself, not psychically, I know this from 43 years of living with myself. My face hides nothing. And when they say they want to focus on the future, and I think to myself, whose future is it you want to focus on? Can we be a little bit more specific than that? I tend to guide them through that a little more gently than what I just expressed. But I guess one of the things you'll get through this show is me sharing thoughts with you that I don't always share with everyone else. So maybe this show will be a chance for you to get to know me a little bit more personally. Hopefully that's a good thing. All right, I want to make sure I hit everybody. I know Kim has been here. I know Winter's with you. I know Fee's been here. Dylan's with you. I know Mandy's here. Before I draw the first card, is there anything specific anybody would like me to put into this? You can put that in the comments and I'll give a few moments and then I'll dive in. Maybe while I'm waiting for any comments to come through, I'll draw one card as a universal read. Everybody's still going to get their own, but I'm going to draw one for everybody that's listening to this. I'm going to cut the cards one time. In between each of your single card reads, I will mix and recut so everybody gets as much of their own individual experience as possible. Wow. As much as I sat here and mixed those like crazy, we've got one of the 4 cards that I chose to show you in the beginning. The 10 of Swords. It's not the most glamorous card in the deck. It's definitely not one of the most glamorous cards in the deck. This card represents moving away from something. Those times when it's absolutely necessary to move away from something. Maybe you've already moved away from something and it was painful. Maybe it was an opportunity that you wanted that you didn't get. Maybe it was a friendship that no longer exists. Maybe it was a job that you walked away from, or maybe you didn't leave on your own. There's all kinds of things that I could assign to this. And all of those things that I mentioned are challenging. They're painful. I can't tell you that in readings, we're never going to stumble across something challenging or painful, because that's a part of the human experience. There's always going to be things to challenge us. There's always going to be pain that we have to face. There's always going to be experiences that help us grow and that we learn from. So since this was a universal card for everybody, if any of you can relate to any of those things right now, something that's come to an end, whether you wanted it to or not, what I want you to focus on instead of that ending is your next beginning. What is there room for in your life now that something else isn't there taking up space? So the comment on the screen here, Dylan wants to know if he's practicing the correct way. He's accepted his spirit animal and is trying to connect with his spirit guide to help him on his journey. Since that's right in front of me right now, I'm going to dive into that one first. Since spirit animal is a part of this query, I want to say that Kim Krans, the author of this deck, has an incredible oracle deck. She has an animal spirit deck. I'm going to call it an oracle deck instead of a tarot deck because it does not have the traditional 78 cards. It doesn't have the traditional 4 suits. It's got 5 suits. It's a lovely deck. So anybody with an interest in spirit animals, totem animals, or just animal imagery might want to check out the Spirit Animal deck by Kim Krans. All right, Dylan, I'm going to draw your card after I cut. Mandy, I saw you had a specific comment about wondering if the deceased have anything for you. That's what I'm going to do next since I saw that comment. Like I said, I'm still going to get to everybody, but I'm just going with the ones that I've seen for right now. And if you don't leave a comment, it's okay. I'll still get to you. I was going to say, if this was that same card again, I was going to get up and go home. I am home. Either way. It's not the same card. It's the 8 of Swords. The butterfly is still partially in its cocoon state. If it ripped through that cocoon, what would it do next? Would it see the swords and say, I might as well have just stayed in my cocoon, I'm still stuck? Or would it see its opportunities to get out and to be free? I drew this reversed. That to me is taking away our options. So the options for this guy, I bust out of the cocoon, I can choose to stay stuck, or I can choose to get out. You've already done that. That's what I meant when I said it takes away the option. You've embarked upon a path. You've taken a step of connecting to this animal spirit. And based on that, you're right where you belong right now. I say right now, knowing that this is going to continue to unfold. And as it unfolds, it will change. and it's supposed to change. Continue to get to know this animal spirit guide. Let it take its proper place alongside you. Oh, that was cool. I love how I said that. Let it take its place alongside you on this path. And for you and this animal spirit guide, other pieces will start to fall in place. I keep putting emphasis on this animal guide with the understanding that there's other guides you should be focused on and connecting to. But right now, this animal guide, this idea of it taking its place alongside you as you continue to navigate this spiritual path, that's where the importance lies right now. That's where the next doors are going to start to open for you. I'm going to mix these, and then I'll do Mandy's next. I'm going to say that as I am mixing these, I am, first of all, feeling a dramatic temperature change in the room. I'm getting very warm. And I'm also going to say that I'm noticing my breathing rate is changing a little bit. I'm breathing just a little bit more slowly. I felt my shoulders relax a little bit more. And this to me is a very common feeling when we're about to connect to someone who has strong feelings for the individual with which I'm speaking. So just based on the physical sensations I'm having right now, I would say that yes, someone does have something to say to you. That's great to see. You're welcome, Dylan. I love this. I love Kim's comments. What does the near future hold for me? Thank you for the specificity there and not just asking about the future. And I love it. Winter, too, wants to know what's in her near future. It's okay if Scarlett wants a card but doesn't know what to ask. I'll figure it out. So, Mandy, the physical sensations I was describing again, when I say that those are cues to me that someone's here, this presence has me feeling very relaxed. What makes one feel relaxed? Well, to me, when they feel safe, they feel relaxed. I know that's not my feeling to have right now. I obviously feel safe. I'm in my own home office. I'm very safe. But somebody is impressing these feelings upon me. So a presence who can make you feel relaxed, who can make you feel warm. I'm going to go as far as saying just the fact that I drew out that this presence makes me feel safe, there might be a little protectiveness there. That's never a bad thing. Mandy, we have the Five of Swords. This is one of my favorite cards in the deck, just based on the imagery. The idea of the worm being split. I'm an avid gardener, so I appreciate my worms and what they do for my soil and what they do for my plants. And I also know that when I'm digging around in the dirt and I split one, well, they're going to continue to live in two halves. They each become two separate, thriving pieces. I always compare this card to our human experiences. Obviously, if someone cuts us in half, we're not going to thrive that same way. We're not going to keep going physically. But on an emotional, mental, and even spiritual level, we do this over and over again. So I think there's two takeaways here. One, this is an affirmation of how this is something you do over and over and over again every time you face a challenge. Every time someone comes at you, so to speak. Every time you're challenged in a way where mentally or emotionally you're going to pull yourself out to the other side and be stronger than ever before. Not everybody has the ability to do that, but that's something that you do, and that comes from somewhere. That's something that's been given to you as much as it's something that you've worked for on your own. Someone in your life had that ability too, that when they're challenged, they're going to come through on the other side stronger than before. You being able to do that makes them very proud. One more piece here about them. I don't think they talked about their challenges. They kept it all to themselves. They did it from a place of selflessness, not selfishness, selflessness. They would never share their burdens with the rest of the world. They'd rather just shoulder them themselves. And I think they realize now that that's not always the healthiest thing to do. It's sometimes better to share these burdens with those who love us. So there's a message here that says, keep doing what you do, keep kicking ass, but know that you don't have to do it all alone. Doing so all alone is a conscious choice, a choice that they made by not sharing their burdens, and they don't want that same for you. I'm going to move to Kim next. And I will do all three of you. I'm going to mix for a moment. All right. Near future for you. The Two of Cups. I love this. peace and contentment within relationships. Think of all the different types of relationships we have as human beings. There's our family, there's our significant other, there's friendships, there's business relationships, there's casual acquaintances. In its own way, that's even another type of relationship. This idea of peace and harmony within relationships. In looking at near future, even some things that you know are going to challenge you in the coming months. If I sat here and said there was going to be none of that, that would be ridiculous because that's not the human experience. I'm talking about the things you know are going to challenge you in the coming months. This tells me that you're going to have all the right people in all the right places at just the right time to help assure the most efficient and effective movement through those challenges. So I'm not promising you in the near future there's not going to be challenges. But this is saying that the right people and the right relationships are going to be there right when they're supposed to be to help you navigate them. That to me has a lot more value than me being able to say, well, there's not going to be any challenges, which I'd never say anyway, because that's not part of the human experience. I'm going to do winters next. And then I'll do scarlets. Fee, are you still here? If you don't want anything specific, I'd still be happy to just draw one for you. Just let me know if you're still here. All right, winter, getting ready to put in applications for college. It's a very exciting time. Speaking of, maybe I'll share a secret with all of you at the end. Wouldn't that be terrible if I said that and then chose not to share it? That wouldn't be very nice. I'll share it. Not yet. This card to me is one of the cards that when it comes up and people see it, I often see a physical reaction from them. I see sometimes the shoulders go up, sometimes they hold their breath, sometimes they make a face. It's a card that looks a little frightening, but it's really not. You've got the Devil card, and he's actually reversed. The Devil card can represent challenges, which is something I've talked a lot about tonight. He can represent things that stand in our way. He can represent those times when we stand in our own way. You're welcome, Mandy. And Kim, I'm glad that's what you needed to hear. I got you, Fee. You'll be right after Scarlett. Oh, but the death card is beautiful. I love the death card. Upside down devil all the way. This can represent times when we stand in our own way. With this idea of you getting ready to embark upon this journey of putting in these applications and picking a school and taking this next big step of your life, you know that there's going to be a lot of hard work that comes with this. I don't need to sit here and tell you that. That's not a psychic message. We know this. The psychic message here is there's certain things that are going to feel really hard. Hey, Jack. Good. How are you? There's certain things that are going to feel really challenging for you. And when you get right down to it, you're going to find that they're not that difficult. Yes, there's going to be a lot of challenging pieces to this puzzle, but not all of them are that challenging. I guess the biggest point there is, yes, there's going to be some stress along the way. Of course there is. Don't let yourself get stressed out over everything and about what you don't need to stress over. This is a journey that is not going to start and end overnight. I can see how with this whole process, putting in applications, getting into just the right school, starting school, we might tend to feel a little impatient. I say we because I'm relating to that as I feel it. It's not all going to be done overnight. There are things that are going to take time. You're going to have to wait on certain things. And it's okay, because good things are worth waiting for. I'm also going to go a little bit deeper here. I'm going to dive into my gut and say that along the way, if there's something that you really, really think you want, and it ends up going another direction, don't be upset, because that's where it's meant to go. The best example I can give you for what I'm talking about, let's say you've got top 3 school choices. Say you don't get the first one, you get the second one. If something like that were to happen, there's a reason for it. Either way, you're going to end up right where you're meant to be. I'm going to start mixing these again, and I'll do Scarlet next. Jack, I see you just jumped into the comments. I'm doing 1-card readings for everybody that wants one. So if you'd like one, just let me know. I've got 2 more people here that I'm going to do. First Scarlet, then Fee. And Scarlet didn't quite know what to ask, and that's okay. I just won't put an intention into it to look at the future, because I'll get off that soapbox. Okay, this is really funny. I went to cut and the bottom card fell off the cut. So instead of interpreting what would have been the new top card where I cut, I'm going to go with the card that fell off. What's funny about this is that this is the card that just came up in the comments. Other than my Magician card, which I have tattooed on me, this is my second favorite card in the deck, which I also have tattooed on me. It's the Death card. It's the card of change and transformation. There's so much I could say about this card. I feel that the death imagery is connected to the meaning of change and transformation because so many people fear death. A lot of people fear change and transformation too. Scarlett, that's not the road I want to go down with this. We know that we're all going to experience change and transformation as we navigate our lives. It's not where I want to go with this. There's something about you. Something about, it could be your personality. It could be the way you think about things. It could be just the way your mind works, the way you view the world. I don't know. There's something about you that's really unique, that sets you apart, that I think you have the ability to help others navigate change and transformation. Change and transformation is something that scares a lot of people. I think there's something about you that when you harness this energy, maybe this is something you'll utilize in your work in the future, or maybe it's just something you'll carry with you throughout your life. There's something about you that can help other people through this when they're facing it, change and transformation. There's something about you, your perspective, the way you see things, the way you think, that can help people get to that next level. How you're going to end up using that, well, it's up to you. Maybe you haven't even quite found it yet, and that's okay. There's time. But I do hope you end up tapping into this and using this, because I think doing so will be very rewarding for you. And I think not doing so, you'd be doing a disservice to yourself and anybody else who might benefit from this. I'm going to mix these, and then Fee, you'll be next. And we are open to what may come. We have the Seven of Swords, reversed, our little fox friend here looks like he's pretty cozy, but he just can't quite let himself go. He can't quite let himself relax. And I mean, why wouldn't you relax when you've got all those swords there? You're safe. Maybe something has dramatically changed. Maybe there's something that was a big part of our life, and now it's not there anymore. Something we've walked away from, an opportunity that was there that isn't anymore. And now what we're looking at is a big void. Somebody took all those swords off the wall and it were just a blank wall. That might be a little uncomfortable. When we're facing that void, what do we do? Do we keep focusing on what was there that's not there anymore? Or do we move forward? Do we start to rebuild? And we start to harness the energy of what we're meant to be doing instead. I feel like this came through a little bit earlier too. But this is really specific. This really feels like a void that's there right now for you. Something that was there that isn't anymore. You're looking at this big void and going, well, now what? The beauty of it is that the now what, it's up to you. You get to decide what you're going to fill that void with. You get to decide what's next. So looking at what may feel like a loss, turning it into an opportunity. That was very specific. I could have said taking what feels like a loss, finding the opportunity within it, wasn't quite the right wording. Not finding it, but turning it into an opportunity, embracing it and doing the work, which I know that's not something you're afraid of. So whatever comes on the other side of this, you'll be just fine, and you'll see to it that you are, like you always do. I think that was everybody that commented they wanted a reading. So I think that brings us to the end of tonight's show. I'm going to tell you before we wrap up that I had a really great time doing this. I enjoyed this very much. I want to thank you for listening to my stories. I know I held you captive and made you listen to my stories before I'd give you your readings. Like I said, it would have been a really short show if I would have just jumped right into the reading. So I hope you got something out of what came before the readings. I had a great time tonight. I hope you all did. And I can't wait to see you back again in 4 weeks. Have a good night, everybody.